Hey, what's up, everybody? Tim Albrecht here, and welcome to this week's episode of the Ask a YFP CFP segment of the Your Financial Pharmacist podcast, where we feature questions from you, the YFP community, to be answered by one of our very own fee-only certified financial planners. Please note this podcast is intended for educational purposes and should not be considered financial or investment advice, as we do not know all the variables to one's personal situation when answering a question. Before we jump into today's question, a shout out to our extraordinary YFP financial planning team that makes this segment possible. Your Financial Pharmacist offers fee-only comprehensive financial planning services that are customized to the pharmacy professional. So whether you want to pay off your student loans, make the right investment decisions, or simply build a solid financial plan, we'll help get your income working for you rather than the other way around. You can learn more by visiting yfpplanning.com. Again, that's yfpplanning.com. Okay, this week's question comes from a member of the YFP Facebook group, and they ask, is there such a thing as a financial advisor that doesn't have a stake in another company, like someone you pay just to help organize and plan all your finances that isn't trying to sell you anything? Now, Tim, obvious disclaimer here is that we at YFP Planning offer fee-only comprehensive financial planning services, of which we're very proud of. And we did not plant this question. This is an actual question from the Facebook group. So, Tim Baker, give us your thoughts.
I feel like we could have a whole episode on this really, because I think it is one of the questions that we get, or something that happens to a pharmacist that, they just get turned off by financial planning because of maybe this over the top effort to sell you a product that you don't think that you want or need. Mm-hmm. So yes, the short answer to this question is yes, there are financial advisors out there that, so when it says a stake in a company, I think that's where, typically we can get a little bit confused. So the overwhelming majority of financial advisors out there are what's called fee-based, or they're also called fee and commission, versus what we do at YFP, which makes up a small minority. I think it's maybe like 5% of advisors out there that are fee only. I've been on both sides. So when I first started in the industry, I started in a fee-based company. So when clients or prospective clients would ask me like, hey, Tim, how do you make money? I would say, pull up a chair, because it's going to take me a long time to basically outline this for you. And Tim, you can remember back when you were talking to other financial advisors early on with YFP, that it's super confusing. And ultimately that confuses the consumer, the client. So in a fee-based world, you can sell A-share commissions, which is kind of an upfront load on any of the money that your investment, C-share commissions, which are a smaller load with the trail. You can charge hourly, you can charge a percentage of what the money you're managing, you could charge a flat fee. You could sell insurance products that then earn you commission. So it's super confusing. And ultimately, anytime that you have the advice, hey, Tim and Jess, you guys need life insurance. So that's the advice, and this is how much you need, and X, Y, and Z. And then you say, great, where do I get that? And I then say, as the same person, the same financial planner, I can sell that to you anytime, and directly, anytime that you have the advice and the sale of a product, you have a conflict of interest. And typically, the higher the commissions, I would say the crappier the product it is for that particular client. So you're not necessarily working in the client's best interest. And again, when I was in the broker dealer world, so when I was in the fee-based world, Tim, we would have mutual fund wholesalers. So these mutual fund wholesalers would show up to our office in their fancy suits. They would take us out to a fancy lunch. They would show us fancy glossaries of why their fancy funds were so great. And then they would say, hey, Tim, Jess, glad you enjoyed your meal, or they would say, hey, Tim, to me, they would say, when Tim and Jess, and they move their money over to you, invest, use our funds. And I just felt like, and there might be a lot of pharmacists out there saying this sounds kind of like a drug rep. No offense to drug reps.
Sounds familiar.
So you just kind of feel like you need to take a shower after that. So to me, you kind of separate the sale of product and the advice. So in the fee only world, Tim, and what we do at YFP is we say, hey, Tim and Jess, you need life insurance. And you would say, great, where do I get that from? And we would hand you off to another party with the advice to say, this is exactly what the client needs. And basically that particular third party would earn the commissions, but there's not a conflict of interest in terms of hey, this is what you need, and then we're going to sell it to you and make additional money. So I'm a big proponent of it, obviously, and being on both sides. I just think that if you can separate those two things, you should. And, I typically give this is why I think physicians are not supposed to get kickbacks from pharmaceutical companies, because it taints their ability to prescribe medications without those strings attached. So again, it's kind of illegal in medicine, but in financial, in the advisor world, not only is it legal, it's prevalent. 95% of the advisors you come across can do this. And it leaves you wondering, like, okay, is this really in my best interest as the client, or is this in the best interest of the advisor who is trying to help me, but is also trying to make a living?
That's right.
And that's where I think that nuance is really important to understand. Now, I'm not saying that we're not going to sell clients on things, but really what we're selling them on is really the value of planning.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're trying to say is like, okay, we have this finite resources that is your income, and you have these goals. Working with a financial planner one-on-one, we feel really accomplishes our mission at YFP, which is to empower pharmacists to achieve financial freedom. And we feel like the shortcut to that is working with, an advisor to kind of look at all of the technical pieces of the financial plan, but really to challenge you and to ask you good questions of, is this a wealthy life for you, and what are we doing about it? So, we definitely sell the idea of planning because we truly believe that I think is what most people need, is an objective third party, a professional to help kind of navigate through the financial plan.
Great stuff, Tim, too. The other thing I would add, of which I think our planning team at YFP Planning does a great job on, is if I'm an individual hiring a planner, I want them spending their time and giving me their attention in the area of which I may need the most help, not in the area of which is going to derive fees.
Yeah.
Correct? So, I think the example I'd give is, if you're paying an advisor in a fee only type of format or amount, you're paying them for the advice that they're giving. So whether you need, in the moment, maybe you need 3 hours on budgeting, maybe you need 3 hours on student loans, maybe you need 3 hours on investment planning or tax planning or retirement withdrawal, whatever it be, estate planning discussion, you can spend time in the area that is of most need. And in that other model, again, doesn't necessarily mean those folks are bad people by any means, but naturally you follow the dollar. And if they're getting paid through recommending, products or insurance policies or, other types of investment products, then that might be where the time is spent, because that's going to drive the fees. So all that to say, we want to find someone that, ultimately has your best interest in mind and is really looking, and can look holistically across the plan for what is of most value and needed for you as the individual. One resource I'd recommend folks to here is we've got a guide called the Nuts and Bolts Guide to Hiring a Financial Planner. You can get that at yourfinancialpharmacist.com/nuts and bolts, and we'll link to that in the show notes. In that guide, we talk about the different types of financial planners, how they get paid. Also, we have a list of questions that you can ask when hiring a planner. And we've also got some more information about our planning services at YFP Planning. If you go to yfpplanning.com, you can read about that and then schedule a free discovery call there. If you're not yet a part of the YFP Facebook group, of which this question came from that group, please make sure to join the community of more than 7,000 pharmacists that are really committed to helping one another on this topic of personal finance and on each individual's path towards achieving financial freedom. If you have a question that you'd like to have featured on an upcoming episode, you can head on over to yourfinancialpharmacist.com/ask YFP, or you can send us an email at info@yourfinancialpharmacist.com. Have a great rest of your week.